In today's video, I'll be tackling your idiot lights not working because you've installed gauges. So this car installed gauges a while ago. Now my idiot lights haven't been working for either my hot temperature or the oil. So, you know, when you just turn on the ignition oil, you get the generator light. So today I'm going to go ahead and show you how to fix that problem. Okay, so what we have here is a situation where I'm going to have to remove one of the accessories that's on here. Originally in '71 they had this thermostatic operated vacuum sensor. So this goes into the intake manifold, and as it gets warmer it lets restricted vacuum travel to the other sensor. So you got one input coming in, and I think there's one or two outputs coming out of this. Now remember, we'll see exactly when we get into it. It's also got electrical connection on top for it. Yeah, well, we're gonna lose that. It was never that popular of a feature. It did stay on some molds, but it was phased out later. So I don't think it's that important. We're just going to bypass it, and we're going to move this one here. This is the one that's running the gauge right now. I'm going to move it from here over to here so that it's in the right spot for the idiot light. So we'll put the right sensor in there for the idiot light. Also down here at the oil sending unit, I'm going to take this off and tee it off so that we'll put a T in the place of that, and it's not that bad. Get some tools out and we'll get started on this. All right, well, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and remove this vacuum operated device. Okay, 2 for 1 there. Got the vacuum line and the electrical connection off at the same time. Boy, this top is even loose, independent of the socket. So it's probably good that I get this before this thing really leaks anyways. And these are a pain. I'm not even sure. You might be able to order them new, but I wouldn't even want them. All right, good. That's turning. And of course, this is going to leak fluid. So you're going to have to be ready for that. And as with normal, everything is always in the way. I got another vacuum line. 2 more vacuum lines. So that is 3 in total. Ah, great. Whoa. Well, under a little bit of pressure, soaked my car, myself, and everything else. So let me get cleaned up for that. Okay, so what I just did now was just remove the air cleaner out of the way so I could get in here, and then rerouted the sensor for the coolant from this side of the carburetor over to this side of the carburetor so that it was more of a straight shot at it. So now it's just a matter of tightening it up and getting this buttoned up here. So let me go ahead and finish that up. So this is the new idiot light controller. So it already comes pre-Teflon taped. So all we got to really do is just put it in. I'm going to go ahead and just thread that in there, and then I'll just have to tighten it up with the wrench. So that's what we'll do. All right, so that's tight. Hopefully we don't get no leaks. If we do, we'll just have to retighten it. All right, now for the harder part, which is down here, we're gonna have to see, make sure I can show you all right. No, it's really tough to see. Try to get you down there. The nub is right down here. I have to take that out. It's got a fitting on it right now for the oil. So there's the adapter. Now the whole key to making this system work is this guy right here. So this is the T. Let me take off its accessories. This is needed to bolt to here, so hopefully this goes into there. Yeah, so that's the right size. All right. First thing we gotta do is make sure this fits in there. Okay, you're only going to get about maybe one turn with this. Let me make sure I got a wrench that fits it. Okay, so, oops, let's get this wrapped up. Keep the tension on it. Alright, that should be good. Pulled over top of it. Well, these are just the things that happen. Now I just have to find something to open it back up with. Get it out of the way. All right. All right. So it's Teflon taped up there. Now it goes into the hole. And this is the tricky part, because you do not only get but maybe one turn with this. So I think it starts like right there. Try again somewhere around here. I think the Teflon tape screws up the threads just a little bit. There's the tough turn right there. Okay. All right. Maybe we can get it around again. Or maybe we're stuck right there. I think we're grounded out right there. So that would mean we'd have to come in from this side, which should be okay. I mean, every one of these threads just a little bit different. I think the last one I did, it threaded over here to this side, but what's happened is the base is grounded against the block, so there is going to be no more turning. So that's the angle that we're going to get with this. So let's go ahead and get the other fitting here Tefloned up. We'll put that in there and then put the cap on it, and then we'll put the oil gauge on it, and we'll test everything out. All right. Same thing, just keep that pipe opened. All right. Let's put it in. All right. I don't want to kill this, but I don't want it leaking either. So I think that's probably tight enough. All right, and then the last step is to get this oil fitting in there. So let's just do a little bend on it. feels about as tight as you're going to get it. Now, put this back over there. All right, now the last thing to do, of course, is put this gauge on it. This initially was on a car of mine, and I pulled it off. I think it was this engine when I put the gauges in, so it's going back on. I'm going to put a little bit of tape on here just to make sure that seals up. Just make sure we don't got the orifice closed off. Strings around there good, looks decent. Okay. Okay, she's tightening up. All right, a little more. Okay. All right. Now, I think I stuffed the wires for it down here. Okay, here they are. All right. So I don't remember which ones went on which. All right, let's hook up the other one. What the heck? Look at that, guys. This must have been sitting too close to the engine and is actually melded shut. Oh boy. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to cut that off, and that looks good enough to go on. Yep. All right. Now that all of the sending units for the idiot lights have been installed, it's time to talk about how the lights should work. And it's important to understand how they work on this car. And I think it's true for most GMs and maybe some other brands too. But when you turn the key on, the oil light and the generator light should come on. The hot light doesn't actually come on until you crank the engine. So you'd have a maximum of 3 lights come on when you turn the key, if you had the emergency brake engaged. So you would get the emergency brake, you would get the generator light and the oil light. That's what you should get. In this part here, you may have noticed that only the generator light came on. That was because I had a bad sending unit for the oil sending unit, and I actually replaced it and tested it the same here to make sure that the new sending unit was working, and it was. So I'm going to go inside. I'm testing here to make sure that there's no leaks. As you can see, there's no coolant leaks. There's no oil leaks coming from the T connections or either one of the antifreeze coolant detectors. I went in and double checked that the lights for the gauges were working, so the oil pressure is working, the amp, and the temperature gauge. Now the only thing to do is to fix the place the idiot lights and the lights that light up the gauges with LED lights. So that's the next phase. So you're going to see me remove the gauges and then go up to the bench and try this out. So let's watch that. All right, now I've removed the bolts. So there was this plastic cover and that other plastic cover, and then 2 nuts under there. And so there was 2 screws, 2 Phillips head screws under the front lip, and then those plastic covers, those blue things, cover up the lights that light up both the air conditioning information and the wiper switch. So if we pull this out now, all right. That will give us access to the gauge cluster. Now the gauge cluster looks like it consists of, it's going to be 3 more bolts to take that out, and then I'm sure once I pull that out there's a wiring harness off the back that I'll have to disconnect, and then we'll be able to get to the lights. So let me do that step next. All right, the 3 bolts are out, so let's pull this out. if I can. All right, there's the wiring harness. Let me pull it off. Can't hold the camera. Maybe I can push the camera up there. Alrighty. Okay. Now that we have this off, right back here is where all the light bulbs hide. So let's take it up to the bench and look at what we got. All right, so here's the gauge with all the different lights. Now I'm gonna make some assumptions here. You can see the trace route, so for each one of these pins you can kind of see where it's going to. Really trying to understand how the ground works. Pretty sure that I'm watching the leads here, they're all for the positive, and then I would imagine there's a common ground. That might be this here, or it might be one of these pins. I need to look at this further. But the reason that I care about that, because normally if you take out one of these light bulbs, this one for instance, and you would say, oh, this looks like a good light bulb, I can see the filament and everything, and it looks okay. And then you would just put it in, and it really wouldn't matter whether you put it in like that or if you turned it upside down and put it in that way. It wouldn't make any difference. The light bulb would work whether the polarity was plus or minus. However, my replacement bulbs are right here, and what I've decided to do is replace them with LEDs, and these definitely do matter on how you connect them. So they are very much polarity specific. So what I'm going to try to do is a couple experiments here, I guess. One thing I can do is I need access to a 12-volt system so I understand which is the positive and which is the negative. All right, now I have my battery source here. You don't want to necessarily, the way that I have these leads, they're running back to the battery on the car, so as long as I'm not stupid about this, I can make this work, and then we can test the polarity of this. So let me take the negative, hook up the negative here. Let me try the positive, and as you can see, the battery, the light is working. So I got the polarity right the first time. I'm not sure how I can tell going forward which one's positive and negative. I don't know. I don't see it written anywhere, but I'm pretty sure if I reverse this, yeah, it doesn't work. So you have to have this right. Okay. Well, I don't know. Looks like it should have been working. Ooh. Well, there's some pieces of plastic. It's just crumbling off of these things. I might have to get some new sockets. Okay. Well, this stuff is getting old. All right, let's try it. Yeah, it's on now. So I'm guessing that, well, I'll just show you. Now we have a hot light. So I'm not sure why that other one wasn't showing. I'm pretty sure that was working before. All right. So now it's just a matter of repeating this on all the rest. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, well, the gauges are in the car now, and they're just loosely sitting in there just so that, you know, I could do some testing. So let's go ahead, and I have the light on now, but let me just start with what happens when I turn on the parking lights. All right, so let me shut this light off. And I'm hoping that this comes out, but there's a really nice soft blue hue to both gauges. So that's all looking good. But what you don't see, let me turn the ignition on. What you don't see really is the idiot lights working at all. So Yeah, that's not so great. And if you might be able to tell if I got the key a certain way, the generator light flashes for an instant, and that's it. So that means there's still some issues to figure out here. So what I'm going to do is, I know the lights all work because I tested them and everything was working. So that means that I must be getting kind of a weak amount of voltage to these lights. So I'm just going to replace that gauge where the, let's see if I put the brake light on. Okay, as you might be able to tell, the brake light is not coming on either. So all these lights work. It's just that they're not working. The good thing is, if you look at this, I don't know, you might not be able to tell real well, but the gauges look nice with kind of that blue hue, and I'm happy with the light that they are giving off, you know, from lighting up the gauge. But none of the other accessories are working. So if I try the turn signals, you might be able to see the turn signal flashing out there, but you can't see it on the screen or inside the car. And the other side, I don't know what's up with it. It doesn't seem to be flashing. Maybe it is in the back. But yeah, there's something going on where you got the flashing light out there, but nothing inside. So it seems like there's some situations. And the other thing I want to point out was if I dim the lights, they really don't like to be dimmed. They either like to be fully on or off. There's not there. There's a good shot of them. Yeah, you're either fully on or off. You really can't dim these LEDs, at least in this vehicle. So let's start replacing some of the light bulbs. The good thing is, though, if I do turn the headlights on and I hit the high beam indicator stays on. So that's really good. I'm getting enough power to run that. But yeah, anything else like the turn signals, you know, you can see it flashing in there with the turn signal running. So there's just doesn't seem to be enough power. Well, it looks like this video is about to get more encompassing than I thought it was going to get, because I can't see if you can tell, but pin just broke off. So that means now I'm going to have to resolder that. And I wasn't planning on doing that, but now I am. So I just got to think about how I want to do it. Right now I'm thinking about putting a piece of wire that would go through both of those, maybe solder it down there first and then put this one over top of it and solder it on top of it. Let me go see what I have and come back. I'm going to cut a little piece off of it, just enough to go down in this hole. It fits in that hole. I don't have to go very far. And then of course it also goes in this hole here in the pin, so I'll be able to go in the pin and down the thing. So if it goes through the pin there, and then I don't need a lot hanging out, I'll say maybe that much, and then we'll just cut it. Okay, so let's take this. All right, so then what I want to do is basically just first straighten that back out, because it's got just a little bend in it right now. Take a little bend, straighten it out. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I want to make sure it looks like it'll be okay. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of flux, put it on here, stick it in there solder this all in there and get some solder on here on this little stem, so that all I got to do really is just put it on down there and heat it up without burning anything. I've never done this. I don't ever remember doing this before. I may have, I just don't recall. I don't know. But it's not something I really am relishing doing. But I take a little bit of this flux cleaner right there. Put some more up here. I was hoping it was gonna melt in there a little easier than it is. There it goes. It's starting to accept some. Really took a little bit of time to get this to flow in there. Seems like it is now, though. Okay. All right. I'll leave it like that. Seems like it's got a good amount of, let's see if I can get this up there for you. A good amount of tin on there. I don't want to get too much on there because then I won't be able to get it in this board here. But now I just want to put a little more extra tin on the actual little tip sticking out here. I still have to get that coated because that's what's going inside the gauge also, so I want a little down here. All right. Now, a little bit of a ball of solder on there, so hopefully I'll be able to push this down in there and then melt that on there. So let me get set up for that. See if I can get this to go in there. That is not going to be easy because no matter where I put the soldering iron, it seems I'm burning something else. So a little too proud and a little too crooked. See if I can get it to move down a little bit. Oops. Come on. All right, the position. The height looks decent. Ow, that thing is hot. The height is good. The pin might not be perfectly straight. So difficult to get in there. See if I can just tweak it a little bit. Hello? All right. I think I'm going to try it with that. So, I mean, it looks like it should fit in there okay. I mean, I'm going to guess that is going to be okay. It's impossible to know until we do it. Wow, that made a big difference putting that thinner point on there. So, if you have a similar type issue, see if you can find your smaller end. As soon as I did that, not as thick, it was able to really pinpoint some heat down there, so that was a good win. So let me get set back up to test it to see if we can get electricity flow through it now. Let's put it in. Okay. Put you back on the ground. What did I say? I think I said the ground is, yeah, looks like that's the ground. And this is the light. So now I have an oil light, if you can see that. Hopefully you can see that. All right, there's the oil light. All right, so now, whoops, take that off, take this off. Now what I've done hopefully is got everything working. Now we'll just get it ready for the car. So on my other gauge, I have one loose pin too. And this pin right here, I know it's hard to see if I don't keep it in the light, but that pin is loose. And I'm half tempted to pull it out and do the same treatment that I just did on the other one. Yeah, it's probably the second I go to put it back in the gauge cluster, it'll just freaking break. Okay, so I am, oops, I broke a little bit of the copper off there, but I'm going to do the same thing the way we need it. And I think the reason for that is there's these little tiny tabs that were left over from when it pulled out, and they don't lay flat. And I think I'm going to have to address that if it's not going to sit in there. Okay. Okay, well, it's on there. I guess it's fairly straight as it's going to be. It's just needs to be soldered in there for me to feel good about it. So let me get the soldering iron going again and see if we can melt some solder on here. Seems like the soldering iron wants to get hot, and then sometimes it just doesn't. Okay, now the only thing you've missed is it's the next day. I have gone to the store to buy a new soldering iron because my other one I just couldn't get the heat that I needed out of it. And I've taken out 3 screws out of this so that I can get to the back side of the panel. So I took them 3 screws out, and now I'm to the back side of the panel, where now you might be able to tell I can see that pin better, and I'm going to be able to get a better solder point on it. Okay, I'm not sure why the camera shut off there. Hopefully it's going to continue on. But anyways, like I was saying, I've got this little bit of a loose solder point here, so I'm going to flip it over and solder it from the other side. Some of the other ones here, you can at least this one looks like it's been soldered from the other side. So somebody has been in here, it looks like once before, because these two here don't have any solder on the back. That one does. So it looks like a repair like this has been done before. So let me try to get some of this out of the way. Get this pin looking like it should, I'm hoping, without it moving around on me. Alright, I'm going to turn this on. Now when this is ready, supposedly, that'll turn green. Alright, so the light has turned green now. I got a little bit of flux on this, and let's attempt this. I'm not a professional or solderer here. Okay. Ooh. All right. Ooh. Okay. It's technically just slightly bent, but it looks like it made contact. So now I believe I just want to get this, may be better done on top of the gauge, but I just want to get a little bit of solder between that pin and the green on the board, just so that you know, I'm making good electrical connection with the rest of the board. Now that it looks like I got the pin, you know, somewhat on there. So I'm going to try the same thing. I'm going to put a little bit of solder on the soldering iron, and then move it down in there and try to okay. All right, let me shut this off. That worked pretty good. So this is a obviously not a sponsor, but a Weller. I'll put the link to the product. Got it at Lowe's. So let me just put this out of the way so I don't burn myself. It's got a longer cord than my other one. I can actually lay it on the floor. All right, now let's see. That one should be lighting up this light, right? So let me find the ground. Let's put the other light bulbs in here. See, what are we looking at down there? All right, so that's the high beam, and this looks like a gauge light. So I believe both of those take LEDs. So that's that one LED there. Here's the other LED. All right, put this back on my ground. Let me shut off this light here. Maybe it'll be a little easier for us to see if they work. So the first one we'll test is this one. I'm not seeing anything. Let me just swap that around. Still didn't see anything. Might be because I don't have a good ground here. Looks like these screws definitely might be acting like a help to ground here. All right, I'm not sure if these other grounds have to be on there, but I'm just gonna try to keep getting a better ground. I have a feeling like I'm not getting a ground. All right, that should hopefully get me a ground somewhere. I'll just even go over here and try that switch there. Let's see what we get. All right, I do see that light. All right, I do see that light. Not seeing, yep, I'm seeing both. So this one and that one. What pin is that going to? Okay, that's going down here. It's a regular incandescent, so it shouldn't make a difference. Let me try it here. Yep, it works there, so I got to get a better contact here. If I can get it down there, I'll make a contact. So, okay, good. This one, that one's lighting up. This one will light up if I can get it to power. That one lights up, and this one lights up. Okay. Let's work on that solder. All right, so let's try this again. Pull the green lights on. I scraped off with like a razor blade a little bit of copper, a little bit of that green off there, so hopefully I can get a good copper connection there. See if I can put a little bit of flux in there. I have a habit of sticking my finger on everything. It's probably hurting my chances of getting a good not crazy. As soon as you heat that pin up, it immediately starts moving again. So let's see if I can lay this down. Ow! Wow! Pin is hot. Ow. Well, the good thing is I don't really have to do much of a touch on it. See if it's working. So let me just see. Should be this light down here. Yeah, I can see the light coming on. I don't know if you can, but I can see it coming on when I touch down there. So I'm getting a good connection now. I said the ultimate test is see what it does when it goes back in the car. So let's get set up for that. Put that down. Let's get set up for that. All right, well, I have it installed. Here I put the speedometer cable on there, and I have it, you know, bolted in there. So let's try a few things. All right, so the headlights are on. As you might see, that turn signal is on the right. That's not a function of what I've done. That's telling me that I got a light out on the right side, which I believe is my tail light. I know he's got it out, but here, so oops, let me turn on the power. All right, there's my turn signal over there, my turn signal over there. If I put that on, it's okay. If I turn on the bright light, you see the bright light indicator come on. Shut it off. And if it was dark in here, I'm sure we'd see the lights being, you know, blue in here, but I'm assuming that they work. But yeah, so a fix on that, or I should say a win on that. Now it's on to the the other gauge, and let's see if it works. All right, so what I've done now is I've grounded the oil light by just taking the oil temperature pressure indicator and just put it right to the block. So let's turn on this, and I am still not getting an oil light. If I just tap the throttle, all right, I see the hot light coming on, so I still don't see an oil light. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to track that problem down. All right, well, I went back out and I changed my ground on the light, and right now I'm gonna try it again. Yay. Okay, so you might be able to tell all of the lights are working. Remember, the hot light only comes on while you're turning the engine. That one won't come on, so it's because I'm not turning the engine, but I did before it was working. So here's what to learn. I'm going to take you out to the engine so we can see what the problem is. I think I understand the problem, and I'm going to go out and verify it. But yeah, let's go out there and see what I think's going on. Okay, to fix the grounding problem, what I did was I had the wire clipped to here, and I said, oh, this is painted. It probably wasn't getting a good connection. So what I did was I put it over here to a steel line, the brake line, and then the light worked, as you saw. The other side of this is connected right up to the oil indicator right here. Now, what I think the problem is, and I will verify this in a minute, is that you might be able to tell if you watch some of my other videos that I use Teflon tape down there in between the oil sending unit and some of the other fittings there. and because I was, you know, that's what you do. But the problem with Teflon tape is that it's not giving me a good connection or a ground. So I'm gonna imagine if I ground this socket, so if I do this, put it back on here, all right, that's a good connection. Now I take this ground and I put it somewhere on here. If I can get it grounded. All right, there, it's grounded. All right, let's go back in and check the car. Okay, so I checked the car. Nope, no oil light, so I didn't get a good ground. Not sure what I have to do. Maybe this just isn't getting a good connection down there. I guess it could be that problem. I guess it feels like it. I'm gonna guess that's a good connection. Let's try it again. Nope, no oil light yet. All right, gonna have to look into this later. All right, so I just happen to have another oil gauge. I lost my light, but I got another oil gauge here. I connected it up, grounded it like I showed before. I go back to the car and turn on the thing, and of course I got oil light again. So that means either the oil pressure sending unit on there is bad right now, and it's a good thing I found out, or it's definitely the Teflon tape. So either way, it looks like I got some things I need to attend to, and I'm gonna do some testing to see if I can get a ground here. So I'll bring my test light out. Hold on, let me get it. All right, so what I've done is I've connected my test light up to the positive. So that means anything that I ground on, the light should come on. Okay, so hopefully you can tell the light is coming on if I get a good ground. So let's just test this. Nope, no light. I get a light there, so that's good. I'm getting a light there, and I'm getting a light here. Oh boy, I'm getting grounded there, but I am not getting a ground there. So that is bad news. That's not boding well for this light, for this this oil pressure indicator, because it is not grounding there, but it's grounding there. So that means I'm gonna guess that it's defective, because definitely if I do it here, I'm getting a light, and this one's got a good ground and it's got that also. Well, I know the oil light works if I get a good ground. I can't get a ground out of that particular one, so all right, looks like it's gonna be off to the parts store to pick up another one, because I don't really want to put this one on. This is out of an engine that I'm currently tearing apart, and I'd rather just get another one. So I guess that's what I'm going to be doing. All right, bring you back when that's done. Right, there is the new sending unit working. The new sending unit is in, and the light is working, and that is good news. That means everything's back to the way it should be. Well, here's an example of why. Let me try this fan. Of why nobody's ever changed this light bulb, and it's the one I complained about. I cannot, for the life of me. I mean, it wiggles in there, but there's no way of getting it out. So let me put you up on the stand over here. Hopefully you'll be able to see.
You can push it in and wiggle it just a little bit. It feels like it should let go, but then it doesn't. And I turn to loosen it, and of course the only thing you feel is that it's going to bust in your hand, and you're going to send slivers of glass through your hand, which is why I have on these gloves. I don't know if that'll protect me or not, and I just have a feeling like I'm going to have to break the glass to get it out of here. Ugh. I've got the tools necessary. It's wiggling in there in all directions. It's like when you push it in, you're really afraid to go full bore just because it's glass. So it's going. All right. And now there's not really a good way to get a hold of it. I got it. Oh, there it is. Completely corroded into the glass, or into the thing. So what a mess. I'll have to let that dry, put some dielectric grease in it, and we'll be good to go. So let me try it. Alright, just try to dry it out. Alright, let me see if the new one will work in there. Alright. Now these are keyed. So one end's lower, one end's higher, so you have to get it the right way. Of course, the socket, unfortunately, just doesn't want to behave. I don't know what the problem is. Alright, so it looks like I'm not going to get this socket to work. So let me clean up the glass, and looks like I might need to get a new socket. So let me get the glass cleaned up.
All right, well, I got this off the car now, and let me show you. There was some crud in there, so I have, tried to do my best to remove it. What I don't know, I guess it goes in. Yeah, I'm just looking at the traces where this bulb is supposed to turn and seeing how come it's so hard to turn once you get it in there. But let's try it again, see how it goes. Alright, so let me leave this light on. Okay, let me see if I can put it off to the side here. Now, like I said, there's two kind of traces, so there's a short side and a long side. Just looking to make sure I understand where each one is. Okay, that looks like the long side there. Okay, and if it turns, maybe it helps if you don't. It's hard to feel. You can't even feel the divots Well, off camera, I went out and I bought, well, I don't know where they're at right now. Oh, here they are, right in front of me. I bought another set of these lights, 1157A. The A means that they're amber color, 1157's OB clear glass. So this has a clear glass cover or a clear cover, so it needs the orange bulb inside. So I put the grease on and slid it in there and just really felt for the cutover, like an L in there, where it's going to go down and then it's going to go off to the side, and just really tried to feel for that where I could go over, pressing down, and it finally went. So I don't know how to explain it, but the good news is that it's in there, so it's ready to go back on the car. I'm going to go ahead and stick it back in the car, and then we can test it out. So it's not that big of a deal. There's 2 bolts that hold it on from the back, and then 3 screws that hold the plastic cover on. So that's it. It's a little difficult to film in there. You're not missing too much. You're just watching me stick this up. This comes up through a hole with plugs into the rest of the car. Not that big of a deal, but let me go ahead and get it in and see if I can wrap this project up. Something that I just noticed was this is actually the lens for the other side. It says top left hand, and this is the right hand side, but apparently it doesn't make too much difference because it fits in here. Well, at least it used to. Let's see. What am I doing wrong? Well, I see the problem. I actually don't have one of these bolts through the right hole. So I don't know how I did that, but I've got to take that back loose again so I can fix this. So, well, she put up a good fight, but I was able to get it back out. It's going through the right prongs now. So now we'll try it. I don't think this fits in. Now I understand why they're left and right hand sided, because it sticks out over here, and if it was pointing the right direction. So I might go ahead and switch these around, because it looks like it makes a big difference on how this sits in here. As always, one little thing turns into 6 little things. So, you know, I'm sure you guys, if you're sticking around to watch me do this, have run into this same thing as many times as I have, which is you go to fix one thing, the idiot lights, and you get stuck doing 6 other things in addition to what you're there to do, because of either your own fault or somebody else's putting stuff together wrong that you've got to fix because you don't feel like doing it the same way that they did it. So let's see if I can get these in there. Alright, well, hopefully I'll sleep better at night knowing these are in there right. I don't know. Anyways, that's that. So I'm going to put the other one in and then we'll test it. Alright, the other side is in there, so the first thing I'm going to do is turn on the parking light and then turn on the blinker on that side. Okay, great. Looks like, yep, we got a winner. It's on, so let me turn the turning signal on. Okay,
And we got a turn signal indicator too. And I noticed when I was in the car, I'll show you, there is no more green light staying on that side. So we've got it fixed. Yay.
To get that, to check on that, let me shut off the blinker. Okay, now the blinker's off and you can see the light is no longer on. All of the other lights have now been fixed. So I feel good. So let me stop here. Well, as a side note, I took the 442 out for a ride, and the everything was working fine. But then I noticed that the speedometer would only go up to 20 miles an hour and just stick. And then you'd come to a stop, and it'd still be sitting at 20 miles an hour. And I'm like, oh boy, I don't understand what's happened. So I've taken the gauge apart, and I have it here, and I'm going to show you what happened and what I'm going to do to fix it. Okay, as you recall in the last video, earlier in this video actually, I had to solder this tip right here back onto the back of the board. And when I was first doing that, this was still connected to the board, or to the gauge. And I guess a piece of the solder fell down through here and out the other side before I welded it or did it on the other side. And so what you see right now is a gauge stuck around 20 miles an hour. The reason for that is right here. So this little piece of solder has fallen right down here, and that is sitting on top of the framework that moves the gauge, or moves the needle. So I don't have my screwdriver. Let me get a screwdriver. So if I move this, there, now it's free, and now the gauge will fall just about down to 0 because the solder is now not in the way. But as you can see, this is really impacting how the gauge, that's the needle right there moving back and forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat the solder up with the soldering gun, and then kind of like flick the gauge. I'll try to show you, and kind of like heat it up, get the solder melted, and then flick it, and then hopefully flick out this chunk of solder here, and that should fix it. All right, so I got the solder gun out, and it's on red. It's supposed to take, if I remember correctly, about 30 seconds to heat up. So let's see what it does. Maybe I'll be successful. Let me see if I can do this left-handed, and then I could do all the flicking right-handed as soon as this gets heated up. Switch over to green now and see if I can melt it and see if it'll just fall out of here. Okay, so I'm heating it up. Well, you could never get the solder to stick this well if you were trying to make this happen. But when you're not trying to make it happen, boy, it just fell out. Perfect. So let me shut this off before I get burned. All right, and there you might be able to tell the solder is gone. Now what's left to do is just, clean it up and put it back together. I'm so happy that came out of there so perfect. That's working again. You could not get that gauge past 20 miles an hour because that piece. So the piece is gone, and I'm happy. So that was about 20 miles an hour, and yep, it's not there anymore. So cool. That was easier than I thought. So excellent. Now we just put this gauge together, and I'm good to go. So I'll show you when it's all back together. All right, well, I recovered the piece of solder that was in there. So there's the culprit right there. It's a hefty chunk of solder. So yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate it fell in there, but lucky that it fell in such a place I could get to it pretty easily. So yeah, so that's it. See you in a bit. Well, that was a much longer project than I had really anticipated when I started when I started, all I thought I was going to be doing was getting the idiot lights working on the inside of the car, which meant adding some T connections and additional sending units to the engine, which all went fine until one of the sending units that I put back on the car turned out that it was faulty. So that threw me for a little bit of a twist, but I was able to figure it out just by trying to apply some logic to it, and got that resolved, and then went on to the idiot lights where there was even more twists. And basically what I learned was, for the idiot lights, it's okay to keep them incandescent, because as LEDs they wouldn't work. But if you have a light that stays on all the time, like the back that lights up the gauge, those worked fine. The high beam indicator worked fine as an LED, but for some reason when the engine is not off, there must not be enough power maybe in this battery, but this battery is pretty new. So for whatever reason, when the engine's not off and you saw me turn the key, it just would not turn on them LEDs in the idiot lights. So I left them as incandescent and they work fine. So I can't say that's going to happen for all cars, but for this one it did. So it's a lesson learned to me. Once I got past all that, then, I still had some outstanding issues where I had two bulbs that were bad, one in the tail light, one in the front light. And, everything went fine with the tail light. I was able to change that one really well, but without any incident. But the one on the front would not come out. And so what I had to do is break it out, pull it out with a pair of needle nose pliers, and then the hassle of putting these, even though they're the same socket size as the originals, sometimes I've noticed on these bulb replacements, they're made in China now, and sometimes they just don't go back in as well as the original ones came out. So something to be to know about. So in case you run into issues like I had trying to get new bulbs in, I actually had to go buy another set of bulbs, a different batch of bulbs, and those ones fit, because I could not get that other older one that I had back in that socket. So something to be aware of. Hopefully if you stayed around, you'd like this kind of content. I know it ran long, but there's not much I can do about that. There's just so many things that can happen while you do this. If you like this video, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. And until the next video, ciao.